A billionaire walked into her diner, but when his wallet slipped open, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Her mother's photo, a simple black woman who had lived her whole life working 2 jobs and raising her daughter without any help. Her mother had no connection to influence or fortune, so why was her picture inside the wallet of one of the most powerful white men in the country? Stay with us to uncover the truth that flipped her entire world upside down, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. The graveyard shift was crawling by at the faded roadside diner, with nothing but the buzz of a faulty neon sign outside breaking the stillness. Maya Bennett wiped a streak of syrup off the counter, counting the minutes until her shift ended. The door creaked open with a soft chime and she glanced up, half expecting a trucker or someone looking for a midnight snack. Instead, a man walked in like he owned the sky. His suit looked hand-stitched, his shoes polished like mirrors, and his presence turned the stale diner air electric. Without a word, he took a seat near the window, his gaze fixed on the empty street like he was waiting for something to happen. Maya approached with her notepad. He didn't look up. "Black coffee," he said, his tone cool, decisive. She returned a few minutes later with the drink, placing it gently in front of him. He nodded absently, reached into his coat for his wallet, and that's when it happened. A small photo slipped out and floated to the linoleum floor. She leaned down to grab it and froze. Her throat tightened. Her knees felt weak. It was her mother. The same photo that used to sit on their bedroom dresser, same smile, same sunlit curls tucked behind her ear. Her voice came out thin, shaky. "Where did you get this?" The man blinked, caught off guard. Finally he looked at her, really looked. His jaw tightened slightly. Maya held the photograph up between them. "Why do you have this? That's my mother." His expression shifted for the briefest second. Recognition, maybe even guilt, but it vanished behind a polished mask. "You're mistaken," he replied, coolly slipping the photo from her hand and sliding it back into his wallet. Maya felt sick. She wasn't mistaken. She could see it clear as day, down to the faint coffee stain in the corner. "No, I'm not," she insisted, voice firmer now. "Tell me how you knew her." The man adjusted his cufflinks, exhaled through his nose. "I don't owe you anything," he said flatly. Then he stood, laid a crisp bill, $200 on the table, and started walking toward the exit. Her heart thundered. He was about to disappear, taking the truth with him. She darted from behind the counter, nearly knocking a stool over. "Wait, please, just tell me something." But he was already outside. A sleek black BMW idled at the curb, a driver stepping out to open the door. Maya stood in the doorway, the night air biting. "Please, did you love her?" For a moment, his hand hesitated on the car door. He glanced back at her, his gaze blank but unreadable. And in a voice like frost he muttered, "Forget this." Then he stepped into the car. The door shut. The engine faded into the night. The engine roared to life, and before she could take another step, the vehicle disappeared into the night. Maya stood rooted on the pavement, her chest heaving with each breath. A billionaire had just stepped into her world and vanished, leaving behind more unanswered questions than she knew what to do with. Who was he really, and what connection did he have to her mother's photograph? She wasn't going to let it slide. She was going to get to the bottom of it. That night, sleep was a stranger. She sat hunched over her second-hand laptop in the dim light of her apartment, scanning every possible online lead. No name, no receipt, no card. Just the face burned into her memory, and the cold way he dismissed her like a mistake he never intended to revisit. But that photo in his wallet had changed everything. She began digging through lists of high-net-worth executives, top real estate moguls, investment tycoons. Dozens of possibilities and profile photos flashed by, but none matched. Frustration welled up. Minutes turned to hours. Then, just when she was about to close the laptop, there he was. Bennett Rowe, founder and CEO of Rowe Strategic Holdings, a billionaire with properties stretching from New York to Singapore. His photo stopped her cold. That was him. She clicked on every link she could find, combing through his public appearances, charity boards, acquisitions. Nothing about her mother. No public connection. No record of their lives ever crossing. It was as if he'd buried the truth. Maya's hands curled into fists. That man had sat in her diner holding a photo of Evelyn Bennett, the woman who raised her through hardship, and acted like she was nobody. She wasn't walking away from this. She needed the truth, and she knew exactly where to start. Before the sun had fully risen, Maya boarded the earliest metro line into the city. Her stomach was in knots when she stepped off in front of a towering steel and glass monument, Rowe Strategic Headquarters. The name gleamed across the entrance like a crown. It felt like walking into a fortress, but Maya didn't hesitate. She pushed through the glass doors and marched straight to the front desk. "I need to speak with Mr. Rowe," she said, forcing her voice to stay calm. The woman at reception didn't flinch. "Do you have a scheduled meeting?" "No," Maya replied, already expecting the answer. "But it's urgent." The receptionist raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. "Mr. Rowe doesn't take unscheduled visits." Maya's heart thudded. Of course not. People like him didn't just open their doors to strangers. Her gaze flicked across the expansive lobby, security officers, turnstiles, employees swiping badges at elevator gates. There was no chance she was getting in the normal way. Then she saw him. A flustered intern maybe, early 20s, juggling a coffee and a stack of documents. He was moving quickly, clearly overwhelmed. Maya didn't think, she just acted. She caught up to him, matching his pace. "Hey, you forgot to email me the summary Mr. Rowe asked for," she said under her breath. He blinked, confused. "Wait, who?" "The overview," she snapped, feigning annoyance. "He's expecting it before the 9 a.m. meeting." Caught off guard, the young man hesitated just long enough for Maya to slip past with him as he scanned his badge at the turnstile. It beeped green. The guard barely looked up. Maya stepped inside the elevator corridor. She was in. Her pulse pounded as she stepped into the elevator, pressing the button for the executive floor. This was it. She was finally going to confront Bennett Rowe, and this time, he wouldn't vanish without giving her answers. When the doors opened at the top level of Rowe Strategic Holdings, Maya stepped out with shaky breath and clenched fists. The reception area gleamed with polished stone and glass, cold and imposing. A sharply dressed man intercepted her immediately. "Ma'am, do you have an appointment?" "No," Maya replied, her voice firm. "But I need to speak to Bennett Rowe. It's about my mother." The man's expression hardened. "Mr. Rowe doesn't see unscheduled guests." Maya took a breath. "Tell him my mother's name was Evelyn Bennett, and I'm not leaving until I speak to him." The man hesitated, then walked briskly down a corridor. Minutes passed like hours. Then a door opened. Bennett appeared. His eyes met hers. And in that instant, there was no shock, no anger, just a quiet weariness, like he'd been expecting this day for a long time. He walked toward her slowly. "Come with me," he said. Maya followed him into an expansive office that reeked of power and silence. As the door closed, she turned, trembling. "Why do you have a photo of my mother?" Bennett didn't speak right away. He moved behind his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out his wallet. From it, he took the photograph she had seen, the one that had torn her world apart. He placed it gently on the desk between them. Maya stared at it for a long moment before lifting her gaze to his. "You knew her," she said softly. His face gave nothing away, but his voice carried weight. "I didn't just know her," he said. "I loved her." Maya felt the floor beneath her shift. She had come looking for answers, but nothing could have prepared her for this. "I loved her," he repeated, quieter this time. "But I left." Her throat tightened. "Why?" His jaw tensed. "Because I was weak. My family made it clear. If I stayed with Evelyn, I'd lose it all. My inheritance, the company, everything I had worked for. They told me to choose." Maya's voice cracked. "So you chose money?" Bennett's expression darkened. I thought I'd come back for her, once I had everything secure. But when I finally did, she was gone." Maya clenched her fists. Her mother had raised her alone, scraping by, while this man had lived in a skyscraper. "She never told me about you," she whispered. "Not once." Something flickered in his eyes. "Because she wanted to shield you. From me." The room fell into a heavy silence. Maya felt like the air had been sucked out of it. She couldn't speak, couldn't cry. She just nodded once and walked out, the weight of his words suffocating her. That night, back in her apartment, she pulled out the old cedar box that had held her mother's keepsakes since before she could remember. She dug through faded letters, childhood drawings, pieces of the past that now held deeper meaning. At the bottom, her hand brushed against a soft velvet pouch. She opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a silver necklace with a small pendant, smooth and cool. Etched into the metal were 3 words: forgive, love, begin. On the back, a tiny worn photo of a man, her father. Next to it, a note in Evelyn's delicate script. "This belonged to your father. I kept it for you. One day, you will understand." Her hands trembled as the truth fully set in. Graham Whitaker wasn't just someone from her mother's past. He was her father. The following morning, Maya stood once more in front of the towering glass facade of Whitaker International Holdings. Her fingers curled tightly around the silver pendant hanging from her neck. The noise of the city blurred around her. Her thoughts were consumed by a single realization. This man was her blood. She inhaled deeply, squared her shoulders, and walked through the revolving doors. This time, she wasn't sneaking in through back elevators or side doors. She marched to the front desk and faced the receptionist directly. "I need to speak with Graham Whitaker. It's urgent." The receptionist barely looked up. "As I mentioned yesterday, Mr. Whitaker doesn't accept unscheduled appointments." Maya slammed her hand on the counter and opened her fingers to reveal the pendant. "Then tell him his daughter is here." The receptionist's expression wavered as the weight of those words settled. There was hesitation before she reached for the phone. Within moments, 2 security guards appeared, but before they could act, a commanding voice echoed down the hallway. "Let her through!" Graham stood at the far end, his gaze hard to read. Without a word, he turned and disappeared into his office. Maya followed, her heart beating like thunder beneath her ribs. The door closed behind her with a dull click, sealing them in silence. She didn't hesitate. She stepped forward, unclasped the pendant from her neck, and set it on his desk. "Explain this." Graham stared at the pendant, his hand hovering inches from it but never making contact. His jaw clenched. "She kept it," he whispered. "She didn't just keep it," Maya replied sharply. "She left it for me, with a handwritten note. She never once told me who my father was, but this," she pointed to the necklace, "this answered everything." Graham exhaled and rubbed the side of his face, clearly shaken. "I didn't know," he said finally. "If I had known Evelyn was pregnant, if I had known you existed." His voice cracked, words failing him. Maya's voice was cold. "But you didn't know because you left her behind." "I searched for her," he said, voice low and worn. "By the time I realized what I'd done, she was gone. I hired people to find her. There was nothing. She didn't want to be found." Maya's throat tightened. "She always said she was protecting me," she murmured. "Now I'm starting to wonder if she was also protecting me from you." Graham's expression didn't change, but pain flickered briefly in his eyes. Maybe she was right. The silence between them pressed heavy against the walls. For the first time, Maya saw him not as a titan of industry or a stranger with a mysterious past, but as a man gutted by regret. "I know I can't undo anything," Graham said quietly, "but I want the chance to be here now, to know you. Not as a CEO, not with a title. Just as your father, if you'll let me." Maya's hand returned to the pendant. "Forgive. Love. Begin." She traced the engraved words with her thumb. "I'm not saying I forgive you," she said. "Not yet. Maybe not ever." He nodded slowly. "I wouldn't expect you to." Maya took a shaky breath. Everything inside her was tangled: anger, sadness, curiosity, longing, but beneath it all, she felt something else, the beginning of choice. She picked up the pendant and gently fastened it back around her neck. Her mother had saved this for a reason. Maybe it wasn't just about the past. It was about the future. Graham's eyes fell to the necklace, and he looked like he was trying not to break. "She thought about me all this time?" Maya didn't speak for a long moment, then finally said, "She never stopped trying to keep me safe." He swallowed hard and nodded, more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. "I'll never ask you for anything, but if one day you decide you want to know who I am beneath all of this, I'll be right here, waiting." Maya studied him, searching for deception, for arrogance. She found neither, just sorrow etched in every line of his face, just the weight of years spent regretting a decision he could never undo. She took a step back, her fingers brushing against the cool metal of the pendant hanging at her chest. "I don't know what happens next," she said, her voice low. A flicker of emotion passed over Graham Whitaker's expression. He gave a quiet, almost wistful smile. "Neither do I, but maybe that's not such a bad thing." Maya gave a slow nod. Then, without drama or haste, she turned and headed for the door. No storming out, no final dramatic words, just the quiet strength of someone reclaiming control. She wasn't ready to call him Dad, not yet, maybe not ever. But she wasn't shutting the door either. Some stories can't be rewritten from the start, but maybe they can still be written from this point forward, together. Every step away from his office felt heavier than the one before, as if she were carrying the grief of not just her own memories, but the pieces of a life she never got to live. She paused just for a moment, long enough to consider turning around, but she didn't. Not because she didn't feel anything, but because some wounds take time, and rushing them never leads to healing. She walked on, not to erase what was, but to decide what might still be. The door closed behind her with a soft click, but the silence it left behind was anything but empty. Maya's journey hadn't ended in that office, it had only begun. What she chose next would be her decision, not her mother's, not Graham's. Heron. Maybe forgiveness wouldn't come soon. Maybe it wouldn't come at all. But choice. That was something she finally had. Maya's story is proof that our past doesn't always dictate our path. That healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means deciding where you want to go, despite where you've been. So what do you think Maya should do next? Should she give Graham a second chance, let him be part of a life he once walked away from? Or is it better to close that chapter and move on? Can love and regret truly bridge the distance left by time, or are some scars meant to remain? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this again. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.